Welcome to Marathon Wednesday, where we look at them big catalogues. Now today's is a viewer's request, and it is a big catalogue. We're talking about Hawkwind. So, because there are 34 albums, I have split this up. So today we're going to concentrate on in my album ranking from number 34 up to number 18, and then next week we will do 17 to number 1. Now, before we start, I have not got much by Hawkwind. I've got about 3 compilation albums, which sort of covers the whole of their career, and I've got 2 studio albums. This is the biggest and most demanding ranking that I've taken on. So some of these albums I have never heard before, so it's been a good experience. So out there, don't get down my throats. I mean, Hawkwind have always been part of my music history. I think they are some very talented guys and very what would we say? They weren't afraid. They're not afraid to experiment, and they have got this knack of turning ordinary music into something out there. And I've got no problem with that. I totally respect this band 100%. Now, because of the long ranking, some of these rankings I've had to start lower in the numbers, so we sort of nice flow and how I sort of rank it. So if these albums are, they're coming at 4 and I'm saying this is a good album, I've discovered that they've got so many good albums in such a huge catalogue. This has been a big one. It's taken me a long time to get this one together, because some of the albums I've had to listen to 2 or 3 times. And I must admit that I'm starting to enjoy them more. So I've swapped a couple around, and something's just fallen down. ZZ Topper on the floor, but I'm not going to go and spoil this. We'll just have to carry on. So I've included all the albums that they went under other names as well, because it's all part of the same band. So here we go. Hawkwind Part 1. 34 up to 18. So Hawkwind, of course, are an English rock band. They were formed in 1969. They've had different sort of styles of it. They've done hard rock, progressive rock, psychedelic rock, proto-punk band, space rock. They've had quite a few musicians go through them. They've included, of course, Lemmy, Ginger Baker, Robert Clavert, Nick Turner, Hugh Lloyd Langton. But there's one person that's been there since day one, and that's Dave Brock. So I'll try and keep up who's coming in and where it's coming in. But this has just been a really hard one to put together, and here we go then. So coming in at number 34, we got the 19th album called White Zone. Came out in 1995, and the band changed its name to the Psychedelic Warriors. The name change apparently reflected the music departure of the band, this being more an ambient techno album rather than rock. It's completely instrumental, except for some of the samples, and there's a little guitar featured on it. The band at the time for this one was Dave Brock on guitar and keyboards, Alan Davey on the bass guitar, Richard Chadwick on the drums, and Dave Charles sampling. First track on here is a little short piece called Am I Falling? Quite quirky, very early Pink Floyd to me. Quite like that little bit. Frenzy. Personally, this is my hearing what I've heard. It's just a wall of noise. There's nothing coherent about it. I don't like the drum machine on it. It's sort of horrible. I hate that fast upbeat tone sound it makes. Horrible. Pipe Dreams. This is from Strange Trips and Pipe Dreams, which is a solo album I do believe. Um, Now, I don't mind this one. I love this very psychedelic space rock sound that they have got, and I like that one. This one's got a nice atmosphere to it. Heart Attack. It's just 54 seconds of something or another. The White Zone. As much as I keep trying to listen to this, I just can't get into it. It doesn't do nothing for me. In Search of Shangri-La. Again, it's just a 4,000 musicians all doing something else totally different to the other person next to them. Bay of Bengal, maybe the shortest track on the album, but it's one of the best. I like it. Moonbeam, this isn't too bad. It's got a nice proper drum to it. It's got a nice sound to it, and I do enjoy that one. Window Pane, it starts off all right, and then it just goes into a very disjointed track. Love in Space. This is the best track on this album, and I had heard this song before. I just like the atmosphere, the nice melody. So it was a nice way to end this album. I mean, personally, I'm not a very fan of this album, but I do appreciate the musicianship on this. They're very creative, these guys. But I just couldn't get into this one, apart from a couple of tracks. I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 3 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 33, we get to 2018 for the 31st album, Road to Utopia. This is all some of the songs from other albums that they collaborated with songwriter and conductor Mike Batt, famous for the Wombles, of course. These are sort of more orchestral. On here we've got Jonathan Derbyshire, but he's more known as Mr. Dibbs, and Dave Brock, of course. Magnus Martin on the acoustic guitar and viola. Haz Wheaton on the bass, Richard Chadwick on the drums. And we've got Eric Clapton on here as well, doing guitar, of course. Mike Batt, orchestral arrangements and piano. Jez Huggett plays the sax. So this is other songs, which we'll talk about more on their actual albums, but I'll now just say what I think of them when they've been redone. Okay, the first one is Quark, Strangeness and Charm. The original is a bit more bouncy and quirky. This version, though, gives it more that bossa nova treatment with some nice big horns, got all these sci-fi sounds in the background, and it's not too bad. The Watcher, obviously this comes... one of the songs Lemmy was involved from 1972's classic Dore Fa Sol Latido. This is more of an acoustic song. It did revert, apparently, and I do know this was on Motorhead's debut album as a real rocker, but what makes this good, that the guitar work is done by Eric Clapton, and it's my favourite track. I've always liked this track. I've got the original, I've got the Motorhead, and now I've got this rehashed one, and it's still a good track. We took the wrong steps years ago. This was more of a folky song originally, but this sounds more like Bright Eyes, I think. And this was... It's okay, it's got a bit more depth to it. It's not a bad version. Flying Doctor is the next track. This is technically a Hawk Lords track, which we'll go on to eventually. But it replaces that drug-sounding garage rock with a cheeky shuffle. Nothing wrong with that. Psychic Power is actually retitled from PC Power. It's okay. It's a little bit jazzy. You expect someone like Tom Jones to start coming in and start and giving it. It's not unusual, but it's okay. Hymn to the Sun is a new song. It's nice. It's an instrumental, very atmospheric, really good track. I like that one. The Age of the Micro Man, which is another track that was on the Hawk Lords when they've become that. It's not particularly enthusiastic about that one. Into the Light, I like this a lot. Probably one of the best bits on the album. Very short but nice. Unfortunately, the next track, Down Through the Night, I've heard the original. It's 3-minute acoustic. This has been beefed up into a 7-minute semi-operatic type thing. Lots of swirling keyboards and synths. It's not too bad. There's nothing wrong with this album, with the rehash stuff. There's some pretty good tracks on it. I've listened to it a few times now and it's not a bad listen. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3.1. Okay, coming in at number 32, we go to 1995 for the 20th album, Alien 4. On here we have Ron Tree, Dave on vocals, Dave Brock on the guitars, Alan Davey on the bass, Richard Chadwick on the drums, and Jerry Richards plays a couple of the guitar on the last couple of tracks. First track is called Abducted. It's one of them tracks where it's got more spoken word. It's got lots of effects. It's quite good though. The spoken words really fits this song. Alien I Am. It's an okay track. I love Dave Brock's guitar work on this. Very, very interesting. Very technical. Very, very good. But I find it to get into the lyrical side of it because they're a little bit muffled to me. I don't understand what he's saying. Reject your human touch. I like the guitar work again from Dave Brock on this. Excellent. It's a really good little track. Blueskin. I find this a little bit disjointed. I don't think the drums actually match the rest of the song. But is that just me? If you're a big Hawkwind fan, I'm sure you'll be able to enlighten me on that. Beam Me Up. Got some nice textures in this. Nice keyboard swells. It's a little bit post-punk for me as well, and I think it's really different and it's pretty good. Vega, a really atmospheric piece of music. Reminds me of Vangelis in places, so I like that one. Xenomorph, one of these tracks where you've got 6 musicians playing all different stuff. It's too busy for me. You can't comprehend what's going on. Then we got Sputnik Stan. This is great. This is a song that's quite popular. It's on one of my compilation albums. I love all the keyboard swells in this. Got a great bass line. Great stuff. Really like that track. Always have. Then we get Kapow. It's again a little bit disjointed. There's too much going on in this. Find it very difficult to try and listen to that one. Festivals, I love this. This is great. Funky style. The guitar work is great. Some nice riffs in this. Really good track. Death Trap. Great little rocker this is. I love the use of the wah-wah pedal in it. Really adds to this track. Then we get a thing called Wastelands. It's a nice soothing piece of interlude music that goes into how you're losing your mind, which is so weird. I don't particularly like it, but I appreciate what they were trying to achieve. They were so daring to do stuff like this, and I hats off to them. SpaceX, bit of Beatlesque in places, like the guitar sound on this. Okay, this was a double album, of course. It's really got some good tracks, and it's really got some mediocre tracks. I think it's that classic thing with a double album. Get rid of the filler, and you got that core of things. This album would have been probably a little bit higher in my ranking. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3.2. Okay, coming in at number 31. This is the 18th album, released in 1993. It's quite a long titled "It is the business of the future to be dangerous." Of course, 1993. Dave Brock's on the guitar, Alan Davey on the bass, Richard Chadwick on the drums. There's only the three of them. The first track is the title track. It is in the business of the future of being dangerous. I like this. It's got some great atmospheric textures on it, and the sequencing on here is really good. I do like this. Pretty good track. Space is there in brackets Palestine. Like this. I like the weirdness about this. It's a proper like space rock with some great guitar work. My favourite track on the album, and I have heard this before, so I do really like it. Then we got Tibet is Not China Part 1. Very atmospheric. Nice keyboard swells. Very good. Tibet is Not China Part 2. I love how the guitar comes into this. It sort of just leads on from the first part. Got some nice riffs, some great psychedelic rock here. Excellent. Let the Barking Dogs Lie. It's okay. I think it's a little bit too long and a little bit repetitive, but it's not too bad. Wave Upon Wave. I found this a little bit dull and boring. It's got that same keyboard run all the way through and it doesn't change. Then we get Letting in the Past. Oh, this sounds like Easy Living by Uriah Heep, but it's a good track. The Camera That Could Lie. I don't think the lyric goes with the song really. It's a shame, because musically it's pretty good. Now, this is a weird title. 3 or 4 erections in the course of a night. This is weird, but again, they do come up with some wacky stuff. That's one of them. Then we get Technotropic Zone Exists. This could have been used in any movie soundtrack. It's that good. Then they do a version of Gimme Shelter from the Stones. I don't like this. And I've also heard the version that's with Sam Fox, and that's even worse. So we'll move on, shall we? The last track on here is Advanti. Again, it's one of them tracks, 5 musicians all playing different tunes. This album, the first 4 opening tracks are the best tracks on the album, and then it sort of went down on a downward hill kilter. But for them first 4 tracks are really good. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3.3. Right, time for a drink. Okay then, coming in at number 30, we have actually the 30th album, released in 2017, Into the Woods. It is a concept album, and it's been described as an album of the continuation of the story of another album, The Machine Stops. So on here we've got Mr. Dibbs, known to us as John Derbyshire, Has Wheaton on the bass, Richard Chadwick drums, Dave Brock vocals, guitars, synthesizers and the theremin, which is that instrumentation that does the theme to the Midsummer Murders. Magnus Martin on keyboards and guitar. First track, Into the Woods. Musically this is really good, but I can't hear the lyrics. The music sort of overshadows the lyric content, which is a shame because musically it's really good. Cottage in the Wood. Guitar work on this is superb. I've listened to this a few times and under the headphones, and I love it. And I love that drum that echoes. When you hit it, it echoes away. It's really, really good. Then we get the woodpecker. This is like weird wood sounds and the sound of a woodpecker. You're half expecting Woody Woodpecker to start going, but it's a bit weird and wonderful. Then we get Have You Seen Them? I like this. It's really rocky, really strong riffs. The drums are okay. It's pretty good track. And then Ascend, psychedelic space rock track. It's like the vocals though were a little bit distorted, so you can't really hear them. Then we get a track that I do love, and it's a track that I've loved for a little while. I've heard this a few times before I did this ranking. It's called Spaceship Blues. It reminds me so much of a continuation of Silver Machine. Really good track, love that one. Let me get The Wind. I love the bass line in this, but again, it's one of them tracks where the music sort of fades out your lyrics. It's very hard to understand what's going on. And then we get Vegan Lunch, another track that rocks. The drum sounds great in this, very punky as well. Really like that track. Magic Scenes, musically again it's great, but them lyrics are so muffled and they become a little bit of a dirge in the background instead of the focal point of the song. Darkland, lovely piece of music. Love the acoustic guitar in this, very very nice. Wood Nymph, it's one of them songs that's just meanders along and it seems to be going around in circles and nothing much happens. Deep Cavern is just 2 minutes of wood sounds and effects and no music. Magic Mushrooms, love this. Lots of energy. It's got a really good solo and it's got that signature Hawkwind sound. Okay, music, I think this album is very good, but in my opinion what spoils it a little bit is the production of the lyrics. You can't hear them, and when you've got a concept album, I think the lyrics are really important so you can get into the story, and I think they're more of a afterthought, the lyrics. It's just such a shame, because I think if you could hear what was actually being said, you'd sort of get the story. But I love concept albums, but I couldn't get into this one, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3.4. Okay, then coming in at number 29 we have the 12th album called The Church of Hawkwind. Again, they released this under the name of The Church of Hawkwind in 1982. Again, the name change reflects the fact that the musical departure of the band was more experimental and electronic. I like how when they do something different, they take away the name Hawkwind and use another name, so they could do this experimental stuff, which is pretty cool, I think. Okay, so we got Dave Brock on the electric guitar, Hugh Lloyd Langton on the guitars, Harvey Bainbridge on the bass, Martin Griffin on the drum, and we got some other people on here. Mark Spearhawk played some bass guitar, Alan Davies on here, and Richard Chadwick. Okay, first outside is called Space. It's the title of the side, and the first track is Angel Voices. I like this. It's got just lots of little electronic voices, bit like Metal Mickey type thing, if you know who Metal Mickey is. Pretty good, bit of fun. Nuclear Drive. Now this isn't too bad. The vocal sound on this is interesting, but it's an interesting piece of music. The Star Cannibal. This is weird. The keyboards actually are not very cohesive with the guitar riff. It's a shame. They don't seem to blend. They seem to go off in different tangents. Then we get the Phenomenon of Luminicity. I like the keyboards in this. It's weird and it's good. It's weird, but it's good at the same time. Really, really interesting track. Been listening to that a few times, and it's grown on me more and more as I listen to it. Fall of the Earth City. This is one of them tracks where it's more of a spoken word than a singing. I do like some of the guitar work in this. Apart from that, it's not a a track that I'm not really into. The Church, too much going on here. You can't pick up anything to really focus on. Then we get side 2, which is called Fate. First track on side 2, Joker at the Gate. Good, this is so Jean-Michel Jarre in places. It's more the modern Jean-Michel Jarre. It's pretty good. Some People Never Die. I just couldn't get into this. It's just a wall of noise. Light Pacific Data. Highlights of this track are the effects, really good. Experiment with Destiny, funky one. This is quite rocky, although it's not supposed to be a rock song. I love the bass line and the keyboard swells. It's pretty good. The Last Messiah. This is quite a little jam on the keyboard. Pretty good. Looking for the Future. Great little track. Mixture of rocky space rock stuff. One of my favourites on the album. Again, this album is very different. There are some good stuff in it, but I say a lot of it is experimental. For me, that just didn't work. But hats off again. They were bold enough to try it. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3.5. Okay, coming in at number 28. Now this may shock the diehards, but I'd never heard this album, so I've listened to it 3 times and I still can't really get into it. It's the Astounding Sounds, Amazing Music, 6th album, released in 1976. It's got Robert Calvert on vocals, Dave Brock on the guitars, Nick Turner saxophone, Paul Rudolph on the bass, Simon House violin, keyboards, Mellotron, sitar. And we got 2 drummers on here, Simon King and Alan Powell. Okay, the first track is called Reefer Madness. It's not very cohesive to me, that. There's no harmonies, it's a bit bitty. Stephen Wolf, love this. Very progressive. The saxophone on here sounds superb. It's my favourite track on the album, which I'd already heard. It's one of them on the one of my compilations. Oh, I like that one. City of Lagoons, nice keyboards on this, but I don't know if they were trying to be a bit disco. It just doesn't seem to suit their sort of genre of music. It just didn't do anything for me. The Aubergine at the Ragoon. It's another track that's too busy. I don't like it when you got songs where they're all playing different stuff. I mean, I know that's what progressive rock is about, but there's sometimes it goes to the extreme, and this is the extreme of progressive rock. I just couldn't get it. Curb Crawler, that's a nice little rocker. Nice, short and sweet, does what it says on the tin. Now, Kadu Flyer, oh, I love this, especially with the sitar, really adds to this track. Excellent. And then we got the Chronological Skyway. Some nice guitar work on this. Of their earlier albums, I can't really get on with this one. There's some good tracks on it, don't get me wrong, but I found this probably the most ordinary sounding of their earlier albums. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 3.6. Okay, then coming in at number 27, got another concept album, released in 2016. It's the 29th album, The Machine Stops. It's they have the it was the first album to feature Has Wheaton on the bass, and so we've got Dave Brock, Richard Chadwick, Mr. Dibbs, Niall Hone synthesizers, Dead Fred on the keyboards, love that name, and Has Wheaton bass guitar. First track, Hail to the Machine. It's just lots of keyboard sounds, very bizarre. Then we get the Machine. I like this track a lot. It's one of them tracks that's got lots going on, but for once it all works. It's atmospheric, and I think what holds this song together is that guitar solo. It's extraordinary good. Katie is a nice little keyboard bit, just over a minute. King of the World. It's all right. It's a bit weird. In My Room, musically it sounds great, but you can't hear the lyric. Thursday, another one of them songs that's catchy, but the lyrics are a little bit all over the place. Synchronized Blue, what a great track this is. Lovely guitar riffs. I love the rocky side of Hawkwind. It's got a really good keyboard solo. There's lots of swells and textures. Just what I like. Very good. Next track is Hexagon. This is very gentle. Very relaxing and a really strong lyric. You can hear it. It sounds really good. Living on Earth, again, it's one of them tracks that musically it sounds fantastic. Great riffs. Superb deep solos on the key builds and lots of swells, but a very, very weak lyric that you can't hear. The Harmonic Hall, just lots of breathing. I don't know what that's all about. And then we get this thing called Yum Yum. Yeah, another one of them weird and wonderful things. There's someone going yum yum in my tum and eels. Solitary Man. God, this is very Pink Floyd. Syd Barrett era. I love it. Excellent track. Tube, a piece of music that I like. It's very relaxing again. Lost in Science. The musical arrangement's very good. Different phases, but what I like is the bit towards the end where you've got this piano that sounds like it's being played in a Wild West bar. Nice textures on that. Again, musically this sounds really good, but what lets it down again is the vocal. You know, it's not very coherent, and I find that a little bit worrying, because I can't, if you got a concept album, as I said before, you need a good strong lyric, and it's in bits. So I'll give this an RTO ranking of 3.7. Okay then, coming in at number 26, got the 23rd album, released in 2000. Should have been a Dave Brock solo album, but somehow it ended up as a Hawkwind album. So we got Dave Brock on here, Richard Chadwick, Crumb keyboards, and then we got Bino Janus, Robert Swift, Des Walker synths and sequencers. Some of these tracks are on other albums, so I won't say much about them because I haven't changed them at all. So you got Lifeform, which is on an album called PXR5. Then we got Some People Never Died that we've talked about on Church of Hawkwind. Dreamers. Now this is quite techno, certainly different from Hawkwind, but I quite like the effects on this one. Then we got Earth Breath. This is a nice little pleasant interlude, nothing wrong with that. You Burn Me Up. Again, I like this one. The arrangement's different. It's so weird and wonderful. I like it. The Right Way. Again, one of them little rich keyboard swirl interludes. Sex Dreams. Not my cup of tea at all. This one just gave me a headache. Just even thinking about it's making me head go. Ooh. To Be or Not. Totally obscure. Lots of noises. I can't describe what the noises are, but what a pretty cool guitar riff running through it. Then there's Caillou, which is on an album called Distant Horizons, which we'll talk about next week. Earth Calling, great guitar on this, but the vocal and the drum machine just sounds terrible. Again, it's that speeded up drum machine that goes doesn't do anything for me. The starkness of the capsule, quite good, quite moving, quite eerie, like the keyboards in this, really good. Then we get Behind the Face, quite a little quirky track, not bad at all, quite a nice hook. So then we get Spacebrock. This is superb. Best track on the album. Got some great keyboards, great solo, the real rich keyboard swirls that you get on Hawkwind. Fantastic track. Space Pilots. I call this funky space rock. It's got a funky bass line, and then you get the space rock. It's really good. First Landing. Oh dear. Bit of keyboards, drum machines. No. The Journey. Not related to the same track on Alien 4 though. This is a real mishmash of things. It's like Jean-Michel Jarre meets Gary Newman. Okay, then we get Do You Want This Body? Again, another mishmash of stuff. The bass line sounds like I Feel Love from Donna Summer. And then you get all this other weird and wonderful stuff. It just doesn't really do anything for me. This album, that's what I'll say, it's a collection of bits and bobs here. It's like an old junk shop full of things that no people's interested in. Although it has got some interesting stuff on it, I really don't know what was going on, and definitely he should have put this out as a solo album, should Dave Brock. But I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3.8 because it is totally out there, and it was an interesting listen. Okay, coming in at number 25, we have the 22nd album, released in 1998, In Your Area. This is part live material and studio. The live bit was recorded in the Distant Horizons album, and the studio tracks were recorded in 1998. So the band at the time was Dave Brock, Jerry Richards, Ron Tree, Richard Chadwick, Captain Riz on the vocals, and Julian Crummins on the keyboards. The first 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks all live. We've got Brainstorm, Hawkwind in Your Area, Alchemy, Love in Space, Rat Race, Aerospace Inferno. Really good. Now there's one thing I do like is their live stuff. They are really good live, and that's why I think I'm really getting into them. I appreciate that their live stuff sounds, tracks sound a lot better. So I'm going to be starting to listen to some of their live albums now, and I will do a live ranking at some stage of their live albums. So they're pretty good tracks. I've got no problem with them, and we'll talk about them more when we do the album. Studio tracks then. First Landing on Medusa. Again, it's musically okay, but there's too much dialogue, not enough singing, doesn't do nothing for me. I Am a Reptroid. Musically, it's really good, but the vocal, lyric, whatever you want to call it, I don't like. It's a mixture of singing and spoken. It just does nothing for me. The NASA, 44 seconds of total weirdness. Hippie. This is the most coherent and the most enjoyable piece of music on this album of the studio stuff. I do like it. It's a really good track. Prairie, very pleasant instrumental piece with some nice guitar work. Very, very gentle. Your Fantasy. It's okay. Bit weird for me, but listenable. Lutoxica. How weird is this? It feels like everything's being played backwards. Diana Park, it's just noises. I couldn't get into it. There are a few good tracks on the studio, but the live stuff's pretty good. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3.9. Right. Coming in at number 24 then, we go to the 11th studio album, released in 1981. Sorry, Sonic Attack. This has got Martin Griffin, who just come over from the Hawk Lords because Ginger Baker had left, so he came in. And on the bass, we've now got Harvey Bainbridge, who did some bass and keyboards as well. So we've got Dave Brock, Hugh Lloyd Langton, Harvey Bainbridge, Martin Griffith, Martin Moorcock. Opens up with a track called Sonic Attack. Again, I find one thing I found about Hawkwind, that sometimes their lyrics are just not non-coherent. But musically, it's great. Rocky Paths. This is the best thing on this album. Great rocker, great electric guitar solos, and the lyric is very cohesive on that. I do like it. Then we get Psychosna. It's just drum machines and weird noises. This is the one side of Hawkwind I just can't get into. Virgin of the World. The interplay between the keyboards and guitars on this is pretty good. It's got an eerie lyric which you can hear, which is pretty good. Angels of Death. Love this. The bass line is great. It leads this track. Nice riffs, pretty decent. Living on a Knife Edge. This isn't too bad either. I like the guitar work on this. Very good. Coded Languages. It's not too bad. Got a nice riff. All round rock track. Very of a punk style. Disintegration. Another of those little short tracks. Keyboards and vocals. Very harmonising. Very nice. Streets of Fear. I like this track. Great drumming. Strong vocal. Excellent track. Lost Chances, another really good track. It's very post-punk, which I like. This is probably the first album, when I've started doing this ranking, that I really like the album from start to finish. Really good tracks, but because there's so many, it has to be in the bottom half, I'm afraid, but I still like this. It's an album that I will go back and listen to, so I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 4 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 23, got the 16th album, released in 1990, Space Bandits. Got a female singer on here called Bridget Wishart. So we got Bridget Wishart on the vocals, Dave Brock, Alan Davies, Simon House, Harvey Bainbridge and Richard Chadwick. First track is called Images. Really good track, great rocker. Bridget's voice is really nice and has added that little bit of extra to this album. Excellent track. Black Elk Speaks. I love the drumming on here. Sounds very echoey when you hit it. You sort of, you know, when you throw a stone in the water and it ripples away. That's what that drum sound does. It ripples away. Very good track. Wings. I love this track. Such a moving piece. Great keyboard swells. Lovely textures on the bass. A lovely vocal. Excellent track. Best one on the album. Out of the Shadows. A really good rock track. This is solid. Great riffing. Excellent track. Realms. One of these moving, eerie type tracks with lots of atmosphere. Nice vocal. Really adds to it. Ship of Dreams. Another good track. Dave Brock on the vocals. I do love the atmospheric feel to this one. TV Suicide. Not very good. Weakest track on the album. It's neither a rock track or pop track. It just sits there, stuck in the middle. And Harvey Bainbridge is not the greatest singer in the world. Another really good album. I did listen to this a lot. I've listened to it about 3 or 4 times now. I just like this Bridget Wishart sound. She's a really good singer. Enjoyable album. An album that I think I will add to my collection. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4.1. Okay then. Coming in at number 22, we have the 13th album, released in 1982. Choose Your Masques. So we've got Dave Brock, Hugh Lloyd Langton, Harvey Bainbridge, Martin Griffin and Nick Turner. First track, Choose Your Masques. Quirky. I love the keyboard bits in this. Fantastic. Really good track. Dreamworker. Weird. It's one of them tracks where everything seems to be going backwards instead of forwards. It's pretty out there. Arriving in Utopia. Wonderful track. It's really rocky. Great vocal. Very solid guitar work. Nice drumming on this. Best track on the album. Utopia, again, it's one of those weird sort of traps, lots of little keyboard bits and a voice that keep repeating the same thing every time. Very repetitive. Okay, then we get Silver Machine, a remix, re-recorded, and I don't like this version. There's only one man that can sing that, and that's our Lemmy. So we'll move on. Void City. This is very Depeche Mode. I've been listening to some Depeche Mode at the moment because someone's asked me to rank their albums. I thought, God, this sounds like Depeche Mode. It doesn't sound right. Depeche Mode are good-ish. They're not too bad for me, but that doesn't work. Solitary Mind Games. It's very Gary Newman and Tubeway Army. That sort of sound. I pretty like that track because I like Gary Newman. Fahrenheit 451, really rock. Lovely keyboard swells in this. Excellent track. The Scan, short bits of music. It's pretty good. Waiting for Tomorrow. This is great again. Great rocker. Very strong album. Yeah, another good album. I like this one as well. Got some really strong rockers, except of course the very bad version of Silver Machine. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4.2. Okay then, coming in at number 21. We've got the 26th album, released in 2010, Blood of the Earth. This has got some older songs on here, so we'll sort of talk about them, and there's a couple off one of Dave Brock's solo album, Earth to the Ground. So on here we've got Dave Brock guitars, Niall Hone on guitars, Mr. Dibbs bass and vocals, Tim Blake keyboards, Richard Chadwick on drums and vocals, Matthew Wright vocals on Blood of Earth, and Jason Stewart on some of the keyboards. Seahawks is one of those psychedelic rock tracks which are pretty good, been brought up to date. Blood of Earth, more sound effects than music, doesn't do anything for me. Wrath, proper rock track, some great riffing and drumming on this, really strong vocal, I like that one. Green Machine, very Vangelis, so he gets a thumbs up from me. Inner Visions, another good track. I love the guitar work in this. The keyboard arrangements are pretty good as well. It's just a little bit different. Sweet Obsession, it's a solo track that Dave Brock did on his album. This one's a bit more soothing, the other one is a little bit more rocky. Both good versions though. Comfy Chair, I like the acoustic guitar in this, but it just doesn't fit in for the rest of the song. Prometheus, I like this song as well, very very good. Then you got You Better Believe It. I prefer the original song, and I'll talk about that more next week. Sentinel, another good track. The keyboards are sort of give this an extra depth. Nice guitar work as well. One of the Hawkwind albums, one of the recent ones, is pretty good. But when there's 34 in your catalogue, there are so many good. I mean, I do like this album, and I've played it quite a few times already. I do like it. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4.3. Okay, coming in at number 20. We go to the 24th album, released in 2005. It was their first studio album in 5 years, and it features Arthur Brown, Lena Lovitch, and the TV presenter Matthew Wright again. Take Me to Your Leader. So we've got Dave Brock, Alan Davey, Richard Chadwick, and Jane Clemas. Jazz Huckett's back on the saxophone. Simon House, Arthur Brown, and Lena Lovitch, who did that thing called Lucky Numbers in the 80s. Spirit of Age is the first track. The keyboard on this, really great. And the Matthew Wright little bit on it adds to it. Pretty good. I love how it echoes between your speakers as well. It's pretty good. Then we go Here We Are. Out Here We Are. Really nice song. Got some nice textures in this. But what makes this track is that saxophone. Awesome. My favourite track on the album. Greenback Massacre. One of the weaker tracks. It's not pleasant on the ears. To Love a Machine, nice track. Love the bass line on this. It really drives the song along. And then you got the little bits of Dave Brock's guitar work coming in and out of it. Very, very good. Take Me to Your Leader. Why do they need a drum machine when they've got some drummers? I just don't get it. It just ruins it. It's that horrible drum beat that I just despise. Digital Nation again. Too much drum machines on this. Spoils it. Then we go back to a proper track. A really good rocker called Sunray. Size. Again, it's one of these little short interlude pieces. They're all good. I do like their little interlude bits. They're always very good. Angela Android. Nice rocker. Nice effects. Great keyboards. Love the saxon again, very, very strong. A Letter to Robert. It starts off really nice with some flute. And then you get this bloke wobbling on about, I don't know, something about nothing. Very clever, but it's not for me. Pretty solid album. It's got some of that weird and wonderful Hawkwind tracks on it, but the musicianship on here is just amazing. Give them the credit, they are great musicians. Even though I don't like some of the compositions, I respect them what they're doing. And I'll give this an RTO ranking of 4.4. What am I thinking? Okay then, coming in at number 19, we go to the 27th album, released in 2012. It's a double album called Onward. This features Dave Brock, Richard Chadwick, Tim Blank, Mr. Dibbs, Niall Hone, Jason Stewart, and Hugh Lloyd Langton. Seasons. Really heavy. One of the heaviest tracks they've done, I think. Great track, great guitar work on that. Really like that one. The Hills Have Ears. Sort of carrying on from Seasons. Still a good track. Them two you can put together because they just intertwined and really good. Minecut, really acoustic track this is. I really like that one. System Check, one of the wonderful weird interlude pieces of music. Death Trap, post-punk sound, this is great. Very, very good. Southern Cross. It's a really nice instrumental. The flute in it is superb. The guitar work complements that flute. Just different but nice. Really relaxing. The Prophecy, basic rock track with a great bass line and drumming. It's basically plug-in and go stuff. It's really good. Then we get Electric Tears, another one of them Dave Brock interludes. Very, very good. the drive. I don't like the drum machine in this. It just does nothing for me. Computer cowards. This is space rock for the 21st century. It's taking the roots of space rock and just adding the 21st century technology to it. Some great guitar in it. Really great track. Howling Moon, bit of a filler, doesn't do much to me. Right to Decide. It's got some nice keyboard bits in it, but nothing special. Aerospace Age. It's just drum machines and it just doesn't do nothing for me. The Flowering of the Rose, very pleasant. Got some nice guitar touches in this one. But what does spoil it? Yes, that drum. Doesn't sound at all meaningful. Transair Trucking, a bit of a filler again. Deep Vents, a little short interlude. Green Fine Demon, got some really nice guitar work on it. Excellent track, very listenable. Now the next track, the last track, it hasn't got a title. It's just got the double comma thing. That one I've just put on the screen, and that's what it's called. But it's a fantastic track. Some great guitar work, some really strong keyboards in it. One of the better tracks on the album. Okay, unfortunately, this album has got far too many tracks. The ones that are good, and the ones that are bad, are bad. Get rid of the filler, and you've got a pretty solid album. And I think this would have been in the top half if it was so. But for the good tracks on it, I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 4.5. Okay, we've reached the halfway stage now. So this is the last one today. It's number 18. Came in 2006, the 25th. It's a studio live album called Take Me to Your Future. This has got Robert Claver on vocals, Dave Brock on guitars, Alan Davey on bass, Richard Chadwick on drums, Simon House on violin, Arthur Brown some vocals, and yes, Lemmy. There's a reason for that. Opens up with Uncle Sam's on Mars. This is a new version of an old track. Certainly different from the original. It's got more depth. Small Boy, the piano work is great. This is from a Brock Claver solo album. Wonderful piano on this. Love it. The Reality of Poverty. It's got great atmosphere. Even the spoken word sounds good. I love it. Ode to a Time Flower. Probably the weakest song on the track, but it sounds alright. Then we get Silver Machine, which has just been remixed. And it's okay. It's okay. Not as good as the original, but it's certainly a lot better than the re-recorded version. They've just cleaned it up a little bit, that's all. Well, there's not many tricks on this, but I think this is a little gem. Okay, it's a lot of re-recorded stuff, but it's a little gem. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4.6. Okay, that's all for today. That's part one done. As I said, the real diehard Hawkwind fans, don't get offended if I've put some of your favourite albums in this part one show. It's a band that I am getting into, I must admit. The more I listen to them, the more I go, well, these are good. I mean, as I said, I got them compilation albums and I enjoy listening to them. But it's been great listening to some more of the more obscure stuff. And I think sometimes when you listen to the album stuff, you go, wow, this is weird and wonderful. But I have discovered some really good tracks. And what I've listened to in this show so far, there are good tracks on every album. But as I said, when you got 34 albums, it's hard to rank them all. And so there may be ones here that you think that should be in the top half and they're not. And I do apologise, but this is my ears listening to it. But I have enjoyed doing this one. So part 2 next week, where we look at 17 to number 1. Okay, we'll be back tomorrow. Very early start for me tomorrow, because tomorrow I have my fibre broadband put in. So tomorrow we have got a then and now. It's a very short one for obvious reasons. We're looking at one of the best hair metal bands from the 80s, Cinderella. And album artwork tomorrow is Tigers of Pang Tang, because I do like tigers. I've got lots of pictures of tigers that I've taken over the years. So I'll be looking at their album covers. Hopefully, if everything's up and running properly, there will be a live stream tomorrow. It'll be an interesting one. Got some good news as well. And there is going to be a rant tomorrow. A big rant. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.